Free Fire is an action comedy that tells the story of a gun deal between two rival groups that goes horribly wrong and the chaos and mayhem that ensues. Directed by British filmmaker Ben Wheatley, the film stars Cillian Murphy, Brie Larson, Sharlto Copley and Armie Hammer. I remember the film making its UK premiere, I think, at the London Film Festival October of last year, and I was really interested in checking this out, but unfortunately I could only see one film and it had to be La La Land, so I decided to wait on this film. But the wait was really worth it because I finally got the chance to check out Ben Wheatley's Free Fire and I absolutely loved it. And it's interesting because just a year ago we got Ben Wheatley's last film, High Rise, and that was another film that I really liked, and also another film that kind of divided a lot of fans and critics. It was very polarising, a very kind of split between, you know, some people loved it, some people hated it. And I think this film might have the same kind of reaction as High Rise did. I think the reaction will probably be more positive with this than it was with High Rise. But even though I really liked High Rise, I think I like Free Fire even more. I really enjoyed this film. I was hoping I would like it. I was hoping it would be good. But it was one of those films that was even better than I thought it was going to be, and I enjoyed it even more than I thought I was going to. One of the best things about this film was the script and how well written it was, because Life, and I last talked about in my last review, that was a film where, I mean, it's kind of a similar thing. I mean, they're very different films, but, you know, whereas this is more of an action comedy and that was a kind of sci-fi horror, they're both films set in kind of very confined, isolated locations with a group of people and something goes wrong and they all end up getting killed. But this film, as opposed to Life, was so well written, and literally, like, all the characters were all really well realised. It was all really well kind of plotted out from a story perspective, you know, and that's what I thought was so great about this film. You never once kind of doubted anything that happened. I mean, it's a very kind of over-the-top, outrageous, kind of cool, crazy kind of film, almost like a Scorsese, Tarantino kind of thing. So if you love films like that, if you want to see kind of Ben Wheatley meets Scorsese meets Tarantino, then I think you'll love this, because that's basically what it was. And I really enjoyed it because it was so well written. It wasn't just a cool concept film. I was consistently entertained from start to finish, and I was never bored or lost interest once. As much as I love the action and all the cool stuff that goes down in this film, by far it's the characters that steal the show. The characters really are the stars of the show in this film, and they're all fleshed out, all with their own kind of distinct personalities, which I love. They're all very different kind of characters, all different people that all react to the situation and behave in very different ways, and I love that because, like, I enjoy watching all these characters. You know, obviously there's some favourites and some stand out. Sharlto Copley's character was kind of almost the comic relief. He got some of the funniest lines and a lot of big laughs from the audience, but all the characters were really great, and I found myself kind of being entertained by all these different characters and all these different guys, to the extent where I could see myself watching films for all these different people. Like, I could see myself wanting to see all these different characters all in their own films. I just thought they were all really well fleshed out and developed. As I said, all with their own very distinct personalities. They all shined on their own, and it was so great seeing them all interacting together in this really crazy situation and seeing how they all responded and reacted and behaved in different ways. It was just so awesome. Of course, this film boasts an all-star cast consisting of kind of Cillian Murphy, Brie Larson, Sharlto Copley, Armie Hammer, Jack Reynor, the kind of standout breakout star of Sing Street. I mean, he's done other stuff, but he was really great in that film. And yeah, I just love all the actors in this film. They really get the chance to shine, and you can tell they're having a lot of fun with this as well. But they also get a lot to work with from an acting standpoint as well, from a dramatic standpoint, from a comedic standpoint. They all really get the chance to shine and kind of exercise their kind of acting muscles, if you will, and you can tell they're having a really great time. You can tell they're having a blast, and it's so awesome seeing all these guys together in this film, interacting with one another. It was really great seeing Brie Larson in this as well, because she actually did this before Kong Skull Island, I would imagine, or maybe Kong Skull Island was filmed first, but this film was actually kind of released first back last year. I liked her in Kong. I think she did a perfectly fine job, but she had literally nothing to work with from a character standpoint. In this film, she really gets the chance to kind of showcase her acting ability once again in a very different film from something like Real, obviously, and Kong, and I loved her in this. Cillian Murphy, Sharlto Copley again. Sharlto Copley was probably the standout. He got some of the biggest laughs from the audience and some of the funniest lines. Armie Hammer was great as well, and how he kind of reacted to the situation. So yeah, I loved all the actors in this film, and they all did a really great job. And I've already slightly touched upon this, but the humour, this film was actually very funny. It was kind of like a lot of Ben Wheatley's films, it was kind of darkly comedic. So if you're a fan of black comedies, and if you're a fan of films that are kind of funny, even though they deal with very dark, serious, kind of dangerous situations, like in this film, it's a gun deal that goes wrong, it goes south, and everything just goes to shit. Everyone starts kind of trying to kill each other, but it's kind of funny as well in terms of seeing all these characters interacting with one another and how they all react to the situation differently. And there's so many great funny lines in this film, and it's what kept the film feeling fresh and funny, because if this film wasn't as funny as it was, it may have become a bit stale in parts, you may have kind of lost interest in parts. But I was worried that was going to be the case, where it would drag, or I'd get bored, or I'd lose interest. But no, it was consistently fresh and funny from start to finish. There was some really great humour in this film, and I love black comedies, and it kind of had that kind of a darkly comedic vibe to it. And I thought it was really great. This isn't something I usually talk about, but the blocking in this film, if you're not aware what blocking is, it's essentially staging, but in film terms, so where all the actors are going to be, and where everyone's going to be positioned when everything goes to shoot. And it was just masterfully executed from a blocking or staging standpoint, in the fact that you'd expect to be a film that's going to be really kind of crazy and nuts, and you won't be able to see what the hell is going on. But it was so well crafted, it was really meticulously crafted, that you never kind of lost what was going on. You never lost your way. It was always easy to follow. You could always know at every single opportunity where everyone was, what was going on, what they were doing, where they were hiding. You know, you'd think it would be a film that would be hard to follow, where it would be really nuts and crazy and you wouldn't know what's going on. But it was so well executed, so well crafted, so well staged, and performed essentially by the actors. It was almost like watching a performance or a dance go down, and it was always easy to follow. You could always tell what was going on, and that's what was so great about it, because you never kind of lost your way, you never kind of became confused or disorientated, because you could always tell where everyone was, what everyone was doing, and it was just really great from a staging standpoint, if you will. And of course, I've got to talk about the direction here. I'm a big fan of Ben Wheatley. As I said, I really liked High Rise from last year, and I think I like this even more. He does a really great job here, because if it was any other director, it might not have worked as well as it did. And Scorsese was actually on board this film as an executive producer, and you could tell there was a kind of Scorsese influence there. It was almost like, as I said, Ben Wheatley meets Scorsese meets Tarantino almost. It was just awesome. I'm not necessarily the biggest Scorsese and Tarantino fan like ever, but I'm a big Ben Wheatley fan, and seeing all those kind of like those styles blended together in one film, it was just so awesome. It was kind of Ben Wheatley's take on a Scorsese or Tarantino film. It was just so cool to watch unfold, and I loved how this film was shot. You think it'd be a bit of a generic shoot 'em up action movie, but it wasn't. It was really well filmed, really well crafted, as I said, and it had these kind of long, fluid, sweeping camera movements, almost like kind of like immersed us into the world of the film. So we really felt like we were down there on the ground almost with the actors. It felt like we were really in that kind of environment with these guys. In terms of the camera work, it was very immersive. It felt like we were down there with them, and it was just so awesome. As I said, it wasn't shot in a way that was hard to follow. It was shot in a way that was very fluid, and I just love the look of this film from a visual perspective. Also, I had to touch on the score as well. I really loved the use of music in this film, both diegetic and non-diegetic, because there's a particular song that recurs a couple of times, and that was really great, and that also adds to kind of the darkly comedic vibe. It's almost kind of like contrapuntal music in like a Reservoir Dogs sense. Every time this song comes up, it's like there's some kind of really bad, you know, shit going down, but then we've got this kind of upbeat song almost, and I love things like that. Contrapuntal music kind of added that darkly comedic vibe, but also the music in the score as well, I thought was really great. It was really quite different, and there's a large portion of this film actually that didn't have music, and I only kind of realised when the music came back in. I was like, oh yeah, we haven't had music in quite a while. But every time the music came back in, it was never distracting. It always kind of added to the atmosphere and feeling of what was going on in the film. The music would go away for large portions of the film, but then every time the music came back, it was different, and the music kind of really reflected what was happening at that point in the film. The music was kind of really evocative in the sense that it showcased kind of the feeling of what was going down in that moment, and I just loved it. I really thought the use of music in in this film, both diegetic and non-diegetic, was just ingenious. And also the pacing. I love that this film was kind of always moving, something was always happening, it never lost momentum, because I was worried that it might have some bits that would kind of drag, or there'd be some bits where you would just kind of lose interest and it would just get a bit boring. But no, this film from start to finish is consistently entertaining. As I said, it's always just kind of fresh, funny, firing all cylinders, and every time you think there might be a point where you start to drift away, something would then happen again that would hook you and back into the film and pique your interest once again. So I was thinking, oh no, is this film going to kind of get a bit slow or boring in parts? Is it going to drag in parts? But every time I thought that might have happened, something else would then happen again that would hook me back into the film. And that's what I thought was so great about this film, because it's not balls to the wall, insane action non-stop from start to finish. It's not like Mad Max Fury Road or anything, but there is lots of action in this film. But there's also lots of parts where it dies down and not a lot's really happening, and that I thought was really great. So we always got these little breathers in between the action, and even when it did die down and not a lot was happening, some things were still going on, some things were still transpiring. It just wasn't always non-stop action, and that's what I loved about this film. So it was never like we were watching the same thing over and over again. It never got tiring or repetitive as I thought it might do, because something different was always happening. It was never like watching the same thing over and over again, and I thought that was really great. So yeah, as you could tell, I really enjoyed this film. I thought it was thoroughly entertaining from start to finish. There are some moments where it does maybe get a little bit gory and bloody and violent. There's a particular moment right near the end of the film, just one moment really, I was like, whoa, okay, maybe that was a little bit too far, because up until that point, all the violence, it's almost kind of like comic graphic violence in a way, where it's got this kind of gleeful abandon to it, where you can just, you know, almost like a John Wick film, where you're just smiling from into it and you're just enjoying yourself because it's just so fun and cool and crazy, outrageously entertaining. But there's a moment toward the end of the film where I was like, okay, maybe that was a bit too far, but it happens to a character who kind of like, he was the only one that kind of deserved the gruesome ending, so I kind of let it slide a bit. But obviously this film isn't for kids, because it is quite kind of violent in parts, it is quite intense, and it you know, so it's not a film for kids. But yeah, I really enjoyed this film, even though I'm not a big fan of like excessive swearing and violence. Some films, like say a Dread, which I think really warrants that kind of excessive violence, and I think this film is another one. It really worked for me, and I really enjoyed myself, because sometimes with like a Tarantino film maybe, and I think Tarantino is great, but sometimes it just feels like a bit excessive and a bit too much, where it's just violence for the sake of violence. In this film, it really worked for me, and I really enjoyed myself. I thought it was really entertaining. So yeah, overall guys, I was thinking of maybe putting it down to 4 stars, but I couldn't think of anything that I didn't like about this film, or anything that kind of took away from my overall enjoyment and experience watching this film. So in the end, I'm going to give Free Fire 5 stars. Yeah, I'm so glad this film was as good as it was, because I was worried it might not live up to the hype. I was worried it would just be kind of alright. I was worried it might not have been that great, but for me, this film was even better than I thought it was going to be, and I enjoyed it a whole lot more than I thought it was going to. So, and even as I said, even though I liked High Rise, I would probably still give that like a 4 stars. I had some problems with that as far as pacing was concerned. I thought that kind of last act dragged a bit too much for me. I think that would have worked much better if it was shaved down to like an hour and a half. But luckily this film was an hour and a half, and I think it was the perfect decision to make this a solid 90-minute action comedy essentially, and I think it really worked. I didn't have any problems with this film, so yeah, Free Fire. And before I wrap up my review of Free Fire, actually, I did also see a 15-minute preview of Ghost in the Shell before this film, so I thought I'd give my quick thoughts and reaction to that. I am really looking forward to Ghost in the Shell now, because I was already interested. I'm a big sci-fi guy. It looked like it could be like kind of a Blade Runner meets The Matrix kind of thing, but I had some doubts. The trailers, I wasn't entirely sold by the trailers for this film. But after seeing this 15-minute preview, I would imagine it's the opening 15 minutes, I am so excited to check this film out now, because it really does look like it could be like the new Blade Runner almost. Like, I don't want to jump the gun and say anything too early, but if the rest of the film's anything like this first 15 minutes, it really looks like it could be like, you know, Blade Runner meets The Matrix. It looks so awesome. So, you know, just from a visual standpoint, it looks like kind of Blade Runner. You know, from an action standpoint, it looks like it could be like The Matrix, and then it's almost kind of got music that was reminiscent of like kind of a synth kind of score from like Only God Forgives or something like. So I'm really excited now to check Ghost in the Shell out. It looks really cool, and I cannot wait to see Ghost in the Shell, so that will probably be the next review. I'll try and get a review out for that, so I'm now really looking forward to Ghost in the Shell. So there we have it, guys. That wraps up my review of Free Fire and my quick thoughts on the Ghost in the Shell 15-minute preview. Have you seen either of the two films yet? And if so, what do you think about it? Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, if you like this, if you haven't already, be sure to click subscribe to see more. But for now, I've been David O'Sullivan. I'll see you next time.